All right, today we're diving into the pretty revolutionary work of Dr. Daniel P. Brown. This is a guy who managed to build a solid bridge between two worlds that, let's be honest, rarely even speak the same language: modern psychology and ancient Tibetan wisdom.
So let's start with a question that really gets to the heart of who this man was. It sounds like a riddle, right? But it's not. It was his actual life. For decades, Dan Brown lived this paradox, and he operated at the absolute highest levels of both of these worlds.
I mean, think about this. On one side, you've got an associate clinical professor at Harvard Medical School for 40 years, a leading expert on trauma. And then, on the other side, you have a recognized master in some of the most advanced Tibetan meditation traditions, authorized to teach by people like the Dalai Lama. And we're not talking about hobbies here. These were two simultaneous, full-throttle careers.
And look, this wasn't just some kind of academic project for him. This was a deep, profound synthesis of Western psychology and Tibetan wisdom, two of the most powerful systems for understanding the human mind. He brought them together in a way that almost no one else had ever even dared to try.
So what was the actual problem he was trying to solve? Well, it was this huge, gaping chasm between modern psychology and that ancient contemplative wisdom.
You see, he saw that each side had a really crucial piece of the puzzle. Western psychology, it's brilliant at understanding what's wrong, the pathology, the deep wounds, and how to heal them. But it doesn't really have a clear map for genuine human flourishing, for, awakening. Eastern traditions, they have those maps in spades, but they can be super hard to access culturally, or worse, people can use them to kind of sidestep their real psychological issues, what's often called spiritual bypassing. Brown's whole point was, you need both.
So his solution was to create a path, a really clear, systematic, and, this is the key, replicable path. He took this huge, complex journey of contemplative practice and organized it into a framework that he called the three maps.
And you can just hear the clarity in his own words, can't you? This wasn't about some vague, floaty spiritual ideas. Nope. This was a step-by-step sequential journey, all the way from being a total beginner to the ultimate goal of enlightenment, with specific trainable skills for every single stage.
So, here's how it unfolds. Map 1, that's all about getting your first direct glimpse of what he called awakened awareness. Map 2 is about taking that glimpse and making it stable, turning it into your new 24/7 normal. And Map 3? That's the really deep, advanced work toward full liberation. And the crucial thing was, you couldn't just skip ahead. You had to follow the map.
And get this, he had the data to prove it worked. This was not just a nice theory. Brown tracked results for over 2 decades and found that with his super precise instructions, about a third of his students could get that first taste of awakening in a single week-long retreat. He made the extraordinary trainable.
But how? How did he get such consistent, almost unbelievable results? Well, it really came down to applying a kind of scientific precision to everything he did, both in his meditation teaching and in his clinical work. This right here was his secret weapon. He took the traditional pointing out instructions from Tibetan Buddhism and basically supercharged them, using his background in clinical hypnosis. He crafted language that could precisely guide a student's attention so they could have a direct experience of their own awareness. He would literally test and tweak the wording to see what actually worked for modern Western minds.
And on the clinical side, he was just as sharp. He started noticing this pattern. The majority of his patients, we're talking about 60%, they weren't coming in with these classic textbook disorders. No, they were struggling with really deep-seated difficulties in their relationships, stuff that almost always stemmed from attachment issues in early childhood.
So he built this brilliant integrated solution he called the 3 pillars. First, it uses guided visualization to help your brain literally remap its attachment wiring. Second, it pulls in metacognitive training for meditation, basically learning to watch your own thoughts, to build a stable, solid sense of self. And finally, it uses cutting-edge trauma therapy to go in and fully resolve old wounds. It was a complete system for healing the whole person.
So, why does all this matter so much, especially now, after he passed away in 2022? Well, his legacy is so much more than just a theory. It's a set of living, breathing tools for transformation. And a huge part of that legacy was this monumental effort. I mean, at the request of his own teachers, he translated over 5,000 pages of advanced, often secret Tibetan meditation texts. Many of them were from the Dzogchen lineage, and he was basically preserving ancient practices that were in real danger of just being lost forever. And in the end, he always brought it back to this. For him, the whole point of all this deep inner work wasn't just to have some cool personal experience. No way. The real test, the only thing that mattered, was how it showed up in the world. As spontaneous compassion, as better relationships, as wanting to be of service to others.
So yeah, ultimately he built that bridge. He wasn't a psychologist who just dabbled in meditation, or a Lama who had a passing interest in science. He was a master of both, and he showed us what's possible when you take psychological science and contemplative wisdom seriously, at the absolute highest levels.
And that's the incredible potential his work leaves us with. He showed that our inner world isn't some chaotic, mysterious fog. It can be mapped, it can be navigated, and it can be transformed with precision. And that just leaves us with a question, doesn't it? What else could we unlock if we all started mapping our inner worlds with that much care?